Okay, good afternoon, Jamaica. Welcome to the July 19th edition of Consular Conversations Facebook Live. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and our apologies for the slight delay. That means our answers are going to be even better in the coming minutes. I'm Veronica, your host. This is actually my last time hosting the Facebook Live. I will be departing Jamaica next month, but I have an extra special guest here, David Johnson, the new NIV Chief. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, Veronica. I don't have extra specials, the right tag, but I'll take it. I'm really thrilled to be here. Recently, this is my first month back here. I previously served in Jamaica and loved it here with a tour in Washington, D.C. in between. So thrilled to be back. It's really important work that we're doing here, especially in my own unit, but throughout the consular section and throughout the mission. We're here to serve U.S. people and U.S. interests, but also our shared interests in cultural and economic exchange, and that's a big part of what we do in the Non-Immigrant Visa unit. So happy to take questions today and just really welcome the opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much, David. And yes, our focus today is going to be on non-immigrant visas. We are happy to take a look at any questions you send our way, but I'm going to cherry pick the NIV questions since I have an expert here. Also, just a reminder, please share this stream with your followers on our streaming platforms. We are at US Embassy JA, and we are streaming live right now on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Also, just a general statement, note that we cannot and will not answer case-specific questions. We want to value your privacy, and also we don't have access to all of that information at our fingertips. However, if you do have case-specific questions, please feel free to email kingstonniv@state.gov. That's for NIV-related questions, kingstonIV@state.gov for immigrant visa questions, and kingstonfpu@state.gov for fraud and other related issues. So, David, let me ask you off the bat about the interview waiver program, because I know that we had paused the acceptance of passport for a while and then opened it. Give us an update. What are we doing with that?
Sure. We don't want to keep your documents any longer than we absolutely need to process your case. And that's why there was a queue for some period of time of our acceptance of interview waiver program eligible passports. So if you are waiting to submit documents, I think we're within a few weeks. I think the last batch that we accepted were submitted or were submitted on June 17th or thereabouts. It's on a rolling basis, so we're constantly taking on more. Obviously, we're seeing lots of in-person appointments every day too. If you've ever driven by the embassy at 7 in the morning, you see the line out there. So the demand is high, and we're doing everything that we can to meet that. Our officers are adjudicating visa applications at the absolute optimum pace. We're here to serve the public and to facilitate legitimate travel to the U.S. So we have to prioritize those in-person appointments in the morning, but we are taking on every day. Our officers are working through interview waiver cases. As most people probably know by now, anyone who had a full validity B1, B2 visa that expired within the last 48 months is in most cases eligible to submit their passport for a renewal without an interview. There are some cases in which we need more information, or system issues come up that require us to bring you in for an interview. We try to avoid that. We want this to be as smooth a process as possible, especially for people who are using their visa as well. Mm-hmm. One thing I do want to flag is that for minor applicants, for visa parents who have their visas and have used them well and are submitting the passports for their minor children, it's really important that you include the original birth certificate and a copy of the bio page of the parent's passport, as well as the visa page of the parent's passport. Without those documents, we can't proceed, and we will send those back, which can cause an unnecessary and avoidable delay. So for minors who are submitting for interview waiver issuance, parents need to submit their birth certificate, the original, with a photocopy of the parent's passport, bio page, and the visa page. That way we can do our due diligence, check that out, and get those passports back to you with the visa, assuming the child's qualified. So we're getting through a lot of those. There is still a queue, but we're releasing more and more of those every day. When at that point you get an email that says it's okay for you to send your documents in now. If there's something that necessitates more urgent travel for your renewal, then is being accommodated by that process, you can request that expedited consideration through the scheduling website or by emailing Kingston NIV.
Okay, thank you very much. And just to be clear, when you say minor, what age does that mean in terms of the interview waiver process? Under 18, or is there a magic age?
Sorry, children under the age of 14 are eligible for interview waiver.
All right, so if my child is 15 years old, I need to have them come in for an interview.
Right.
And will I also need to bring those documents that you mentioned?
Yeah, for a child who's still a child living with their parents, 15 to 18 years old, and is going to qualify for the visa based on their parents' qualifications. Mm-hmm. A 16-year-old child is still living at home, doesn't have their own, bona fide ties and job and home ownership and car that would compel a return to Jamaica. So we're issuing children's visas in most cases based on their parents' qualifications and their parents' compliant use of their visas. And so that's why it's important to show that relationship between the parent and the child.
And bring the birth certificate then to the interview.
Yep.
All right, great. Thank you very much. I'm just going to pivot real quick to an ACS announcement. We're officially in the summer, so there are a lot of visitors coming to Jamaica who are green card holders or citizens, and it's also hurricane season. So there is something called the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. Are you enrolled?
I am, and whenever family or friends come to visit, I make sure, as soon as they're buying their tickets, I also enroll in STEP while you're doing it.
Nice. I'm still enrolled in STEP for a couple of other countries that I have visited, and I get their notifications. But anyway, it's a program that you can enroll in, step.state.gov, and I think it's excellent because you get announcements about Jamaica, about impending weather situations that might affect your travel, and other announcements that are relevant to visitors, American citizen visitors to the island. So step.state.gov, wanted to highlight that.
I'd say that's also really useful in case of an emergency too. If you apply for your passport, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, and you put a certain emergency contact on there, when you register for STEP, you can put an emergency contact too, and that in case something happens while you're traveling, you have the most up-to-date information in there for American Citizen Services Unit here at the embassy to help you out and to help your family out and figuring out how to best solve your problem.
Definitely. Thank you for that, for sure. And the other thing that American Citizen Services wanted us to highlight is that increased travel means, unfortunately, longer wait times for passport renewals. So if you are an American citizen that wants to travel to Jamaica or has children that you want to take with you, especially many of those minor passports are not valid for 10 years like adult passports, check those expiration dates, because many people are encountering issues where they're ready to board the plane and actually their passport has expired or is expiring soon, and the renewal time now, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's 2 to 3 months minimum to renew a passport. So check those passport expiration dates. All right. Kind of a specific question, and I don't mean to trick you. Will the visa fee validity be extended? What does this mean?
September 30th is the end of the extensions of validity for the MRV fee, is what we call it, the visa fee. This has been postponed and prolonged for a long time since throughout the pandemic. We did that as a courtesy. People couldn't get in for their appointments. There weren't appointments for a long time, and so we understand people who made, a visa, who paid their fee and submitted their application in early 2020 or mid 2020, and then services were suspended. As a courtesy to those applicants, we extended the validity of those fees beyond the usual 1 year. That's been extended, and now at this point, it's going to return to that 1 year validity after September 30th. So if you do have a valid, visa fee that you've paid, if it's not issued by September 30th and it's past 1 year, then it will no longer be extended.
Okay, thank you very much. Speaking of money, question on the increase in fees. How much does it cost now to get a visiting visa? Sure.
A visitor visa fee went up in May, I believe. I can't remember the exact date that it went up from $160, which it had been for a long time, since 2014, and it went up to $185. This is a standard and pretty nominal increase given inflation and various other factors. And a decision like this is only made after assessing the actual cost of services provided. It costs a lot to bring our consular officers here, to bring equipment here, the security measures that need to be in place here to protect those visas. It's a secure document. And so that process, it adds up to $185 now. Like I say, it hadn't been increased since 2014. It's noteworthy because you'll be paying a little bit more, but we're not getting rich off of that. It's just a matter of paying for the service that we're providing.
Okay, thank you. And I will tag on to that and just say that visa applicants, just want to remind you that visa fees should be paid through the CEAC system, which stands for Consular Electronic Application Center.
Really important that you know that, yeah.
But we have many instances where people, I think understandably, but mix up the CEAC system and pay.gov. And pay.gov is a system for American citizens to pay for passports and passport renewals, whereas CEAC is for visa applicants. So it is a little bit confusing, but if you pay on the wrong site, it can take many months to get your money back. So CEAC.gov for visa applicants and pay.gov for American citizens applying for or renewing their passports. All right. Shane is asking, I was recently refused in my last interview. How soon can I reapply?
Sure. Depending on the visa class and depending on the
Also, sorry,
yeah.
We are asking you to speak slower.
Oh, sorry. I get that all the time. Really sorry.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. So depending on the visa class and depending on the nature of the refusal, most non-immigrant visa refusals are under Section 214B, which if you've been refused, you're probably familiar with. The presumption for most non-immigrant visa classes is that anyone coming to us has immigrant intent. And the impetus, the burden is on the applicant, the visa applicant, to convince a consular officer to their satisfaction through the application and through the interview that they are qualified to the visa class they're applying for. There are a number of ways to qualify, a number of ways to be found ineligible. But the most common way to demonstrate your qualification for a tourist visa is to demonstrate that you are tied to Jamaica, to demonstrate that your intention is for a short-term visit and your intention is to come back at the end of that short-term visit and return to your life, to your work, to your family, to your property, whatever it is that compels your return to Jamaica. There's no cut and dry formula for that. All people are different people. Every situation is a different situation. And our consular officers are very well trained to ask those right questions and to read your application materials thoroughly. I know it can seem like it happens very quickly, but that's a product of our training. And so we do take every application really seriously. And I want every applicant who comes to us to be treated with professionalism and with respect. And I hope that was your experience, whether you're issued or refused your visa. If you're refused, there's no set period of time in which it's okay or not okay to come back. It's really a matter of your circumstances changing. If there's something that the consular officer missed, in your opinion, or if there's something that changed significantly in your life through your relationships, through your employment, through your property ties, or any other ties to Jamaica that you think, if you demonstrate that to a new adjudicator, to a new consular officer, that you could make that compelling case that you're qualified for the visa, then absolutely reapply. We welcome that. And we see this all the time. We see a lot of people who have been refused and come back. And I'm still talking very quickly. I can feel that. Sorry. who come back and their situations have changed and they can be issued a visa, whereas a year ago or a few years ago, they were refused under Section 214B. People develop stronger ties, often with age, often with a new job, often with a new relationship, whatever it might be. You're welcome to come back and demonstrate those ties to us and make your new application, explain your purpose of travel clearly, and we'll give you a fair and quick decision. There are other inadmissibilities for more serious things, for crimes or for involvement in the drug trade, for overstaying a previous visa or previous admission to the U.S., or for being deported or denied entry. And those have longer terms, and some of those are permanent inadmissibilities. All that is explained really well, actually, on travel.state.gov. Mm-hmm. If you go into the U.S. visa section of that website, you can see exactly, if you overstayed your visa for a year, you can see exactly how long you'll be inadmissible for. Because we'll know that we're able to find that information out. And so if you know that going in, then you wouldn't bother paying $185 now to come back within that period of time that you're still inadmissible for that overstay. So that's for the inadmissibilities that go beyond just the basic 214B.
Yeah. And you mentioned purpose of travel just now. So a question on that. Tasha Gay is saying that she would like to visit her grandfather. He's in his 90s and very sick. Under what circumstances, or is there a special provision for me applying for this type of visit? Can you talk a little bit about expedite requests, under what circumstances I would qualify for one, and how to ask for an expedite?
Sure. It'd still be the same visa class as any other tourist visit. It's still going to be a B1, B2 visa for that purpose of travel. And I definitely understand the desire to see family, especially as they age. So if for time-sensitive purposes of travel, we're very limited in what we can grant in terms of expedited appointments. Demand is extremely high, and we have to prioritize certain visa classes too, based on the season. The H2A and H2B workers who go to the U.S. and benefit both of our economies, those are extremely important and urgent to get those out the door. And so we have to prioritize those. Teachers and students, they're on a time crunch as well. And so we always keep those at the forefront. But we do keep a certain number of slots available for expedites for pretty dire and urgent situations of ailing immediate family members, for funerals, for it's evaluated on a case-by-case basis, and it really does depend on our actual capacity to take on more interviews. We have long lines out front, and we have a certain number of officers that are interviewing every day. And so we get to a point where we just simply couldn't safely or legally take on any more capacity with the number of greeters that we have. But to request an expedite, you can do that through the same website that you schedule your initial appointment. I review those expedite requests every day, or a consular manager does, and try to give you a quick response to that. If you're denied your expedite request, it doesn't mean to diminish the urgency or the severity of your situation. It really may just be a matter of our available resources. But we do review each of those expedite requests individually and take those on a case-by-case basis. So for urgent travel, I do encourage you to submit that.
Thank you. Okay, Tasha Lynn is asking an IV question, which I can answer very quickly. Can your petitioner attend a fiancé interview? So that is a K-1 visa, and the answer is yes. We welcome petitioners, not just for K-1 visas, but all sorts of immigrant visa categories. Petitioners are welcome to attend the interview. So, okay. Question from Ms. Paulette Wilson. My visa has expired over 10 years ago. Is this a renewal or a new application?
No, it's still technically a renewal, but you're not going to be able to do it without an interview. Like I say, only those that have expired within the last 4 years can submit for renewal through the interview waiver program. But since it's been so long, we have to reassess your situation and just get to know you again, get to know your purpose of travel, and assess your ties to Jamaica. But yeah, you're welcome to reapply, and we'll see you at the interview window. I will say that our wait time for B1, B2 appointments for regular scheduling is at about 140 days right now as of last check. And that fluctuates seasonally as well. And we're trying to get that back down. And as we are able to bring on more officers, we'll have more capacity. But right now it's about 140 days. If you're planning for holiday travel, now is the time to get your appointment on the books. For other visa classes for students and teachers, we have availability still in early August. Same goes for C1D cruise. I know it's a high demand class. I'm glad the cruise ship industry is back up and running and contributing to both economies. But we have availability for those appointments as well, I believe in August.
So speaking of the C1D visa, can I renew it through the mail or not?
Yes.
Okay, great. So first timer at the window, a renewal, I can do through the mail.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. When you go into the scheduling website, there's a series of questions that it will tell you whether you're eligible to submit it without an interview or not. And if it tells you you're not, then you schedule your interview.
All right. Speaking of, mail versus interviews, a lot of the H visas, vast majority we process are through the mail, both for the H2B and H2A program. But I have a question from Sarah. Why would it be an issue for me to get an H2B visa if I've been denied a visiting visa recently? And I think what she means is she's probably was called in for an interview.
Yeah.
What is that what your read is on that question as well? And can you explain a bit about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just the legal requirement, there are certain cases in which we are, in certain cases in which we are not allowed to waive the interview. One specific case in which we are not allowed to waive an interview is if the most recent application was refused for any reason other than documentation, other than 221G, which we don't need to get into the weeds on that. But if your most recent application, whether it was a H or B or anything else, was a refusal, then that's when you're called in for an interview. So you may have worked for several years on H visas and used them well, but if your most recent application was a B visa application and it was refused, that's why you're being called in. It's just we're not allowed to waive the interview in that case.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Miss Sophia is asking, my son's passport and visa was stolen over 10 years ago when he was in school. What can he do to get back a visa?
Well, he'll need a passport first. I assume he's renewed he's got a new passport since then. If he has a valid passport, he'd be submitting a new application just like anyone else. The lost visa sounds like it's long expired by now, and so it wouldn't be differentiated in any way from a new application.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, speaking of the H visas, I am an H2A farm worker who has gone to the U.S. to work every year, but I don't have a visa for this season yet. What do I do? How do I get one?
Well, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security is the sole recruiter for H2As in Jamaica. So all of our H2A applicants come in through the ministry. So it's be the same process that you've worked through before. We're processing those on a daily basis, and so if you don't have your visa yet, it doesn't matter if you need to work through the normal process with the ministry to obtain that.
Yes. And will I be able, as an H2A worker, to renew through the mail?
Yes, in almost every case, unless you've been refused recently or unless there's some other reason that would preclude you from getting a waiver of your interview.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Miss Latty is asking, I just received a brand new passport. Do I have to wait a certain period before I apply for a visa?
No, we love new passports. They're clean, they're fresh.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really easy to work with. I know that the authorities at both borders appreciate when they get a fresh passport compared to a water damaged one. So bring a new passport. We're happy to handle it.
Okay. Glee is asking, is it possible to apply for 2 visas at the same time?
Yeah, crew members, for example, frequently come in and apply for a C1D and a B1, B2 at the same time. Yes.
Okay.
In limited cases, it depends on what the 2 visa classes are. But.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. There are some questions about immigrant visa interviews, about being documentarily qualified but not having yet been scheduled for an immigrant visa interview. And I'm just going to reiterate the email address, kingstoniv@state.gov, because when you are scheduled for an interview depends on a variety of case-specific factors. And so as David mentioned, with NIV, there are a certain number of officers and a certain amount of appointment slots. The same is true in immigrant visas. And so case-specific questions like that, please, kingstoniv@state.gov. And what is the email for Kingston NIV?
KingstonNIV@state.gov.
Nice.
And then for American citizens, KingstonACS@state.gov. There's sort of a formula to it.
Yes, exactly. And Kingston FPU@state.gov for those questions. All right. Okay. Another question we just received. Can I apply for a child's visa if the parents do not have a visa?
In very limited circumstances, I would say it's almost a flat no. But there are cases in which a child may be going for a limited purpose of travel for a sporting event or church group. I'm just thinking of examples off the top of my head. But when you're traveling with a chaperoned group, that's a potential to be issued, or for sports events. I said sports events already. But in most cases, children are qualifying based on their parents' qualifications. But in limited group activities, or case by case. But in most cases, no. In most cases, it depends on the parents' qualifications.
Definitely. Okay, we are getting another IV question. Do K2s have to do an interview? The answer is yes. So I'll just answer that one quickly. All right, another quick IV question. My wife is the petitioner and my daughter is her stepchild. Can my wife attend the immigration interview with us? The answer is yes. We are happy to have petitioners in front of us at the immigrant visa window. So I think we will slowly wrap up, actually. We went through a lot of questions and you asked a lot of very good questions. So thank you very much for tuning in. Apologies again for the slight delay. David, thank you for joining us and welcome back to Jamaica.
Thanks so much.
And have a good afternoon, everybody. We'll see you again next month.
I'm sorry I talked so fast. Hi, Mom.